If you remember, God called Abraham out from the pagans. Through Abraham, God planned to bring forth a people named Israel, and from that tribe, the Messiah, Jesus, would come. Abraham's first son was Ishmael through Hagar, his wife's Egyptian maid. Abraham's second son was Isaac through Sarah, his wife. Isaac was the son God had promised Abraham. So now let's fast forward to Isaac. When Isaac, Abraham's son, was 40 years old, he married Rebekah. Rebekah was from what we would now call Syria. She was the sister of Laban. I mention Laban because he'll play a major role as this saga goes on. Isaac was expected to carry on the promised lineage of Abraham, but at age 40, he had no son. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. So 20 years later, at age 60 for Isaac, the Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. From the very womb, there was sibling rivalry between the children. They struggled inside of her. Rebekah, like modern-day Christians, when pursuing God's journey, sometimes we believe that the answer or blessings will come without problems. Well, Rebekah finds that that's not true. And so after she's pregnant, she finds it a bit difficult. So she asks the Lord, and the Lord explains, 2 nations are within your womb. 2 people will be separated from within you. 1 brother will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger. Now, this is inconsistent with tradition at this time. The oldest son acquired the birthright that took inheritance and patriarchal leadership of the family upon the death of the father. In fact, that tradition still lingers around today. Rebekah gave birth to twin boys. The first came out reddish all over like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. When his brother came out with his hand clutching Esau's heel, they named him Jacob. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skilled hunter, an outdoorsman, a man's man. But Jacob was an even-tempered man. Living inside the tent, he was pensive and studied. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for fresh meat, and Rebekah, she loved Jacob. We see here the elements of a dysfunctional family. It's normal for people to gravitate towards those with similar interests. We train in interviews about the like-me bias. But it takes on a different dimension when it happens with parents and their children, because that can cause a lot of conflict. When I contemplate why God allows things to happen in evil ways, I remember that God can work his perfect will through very imperfect people. Jacob was a veritable litany of mistakes, deceptions, and poor choices. In this lesson, he manipulates his brother. The physical difference between the 2 brothers was not as great as the emotional and mental difference. Esau was more impulsive, not thinking through the long-term consequences of his decision. Jacob is more strategic in his actions, planning, thinking, conceiving of ways that he could achieve his goal, even if it meant trickery and deception. We see this in today's lesson, but we also see it throughout his life. While Esau had been out in the field, Jacob had been home preparing a stew. Weary and famished, though not nearly near death's door, Esau was enticed by the fragrant aroma, and Esau greedily pleaded with his brother for some of that red stuff. Rather than showing his brother the hospitality that even a stranger was due, Jacob saw this as an opportunity to gain an advantage. And without shame, Jacob bartered with Esau for his birthright. Now, Esau is impulsive. He's not starving. He's just inconvenienced. But he says, well, what good is a birthright if I'm dead? And so his impulsive nature, his desire for short-term satisfaction, his exaggerated estimation of his physical condition, his failure to strategically value his birthright, Esau exchanges his destiny for dinner. We modern Christians sometimes take deals, take shortcuts, make proclamations that are not in our long-term best interest. We fail to value. This was not a joke. Jacob made Esau swear a solemn oath that he was selling his birthright. Jacob served him the meal, and Esau went on his way. Moses, who writes this, concludes that Esau despised his birthright. Given the challenges that Israel would face later on, strategic thinking was probably a better competency than impulsive force. And so, God works in mysterious ways. That's the lesson for this week. Have a great week.